a surprising return at practice, plus our good times ahead for the Patriots organization. We'll break it all down here on Patscast. Welcome to Patscast. I'm Brad Whitaker. Please bear with me. A few too many avocado tequilas after Sunday's victory. Also, I'm sick, but things are pretty exciting right now. Being a Patriots fan, the tone and tenor of the organization just since last week has changed drastically. I mean, even last week on this podcast, I was calling for the heads of all the coaching staff, and now I'm sitting here going, actually, it might work out. But more on the coaching staff in just a minute. Some really positive news coming out of Foxborough today. Defensive tackle Christian Barmore, who was diagnosed with blood clots the first week of training camp, returned to practice on Thursday. And this is kind of unheard of. Blood clots are a serious health issue. And remember David Andrews, he missed an entire season when he was diagnosed with blood clots. Some athletes, they just end their careers when they get that diagnosis. Remember Chris Bosh with the Miami Heat. Well, Christian Barmore is on the fast track now to returning to the field for the Patriots. Now, mind you, defensive coordinator DeMarcus Covington did temper expectations a little bit today, saying, quote, he's out there, that's the first step, and then you go from there. Let's take it one day at a time, 1 week at a time, one game at a time, and that's really the story for you guys. That's the story for us, for him. There shouldn't be any pressure on him. Like, he's out there, that's what it is. I'm happy that you're out there, bro. You're out there, it's one snap, it's 50 snaps, don't play this game, whatever it is, perfect. It's better than not being out there, right? It's better than not being able to play football again. Now, I think it's highly unlikely Christian Barmore plays on Sunday. He may not even play next week or the week after, if DeMarcus Covington's quote there is any indicator. In fact, the only glimpse the Patriots had at DeMarcus Covington's conditioning came from practice today, which is very hard to maintain when you're dealing with blood clots and you're taking all of those crazy medications. So the Patriots have a 21-day window now to activate Christian Barmore to the active roster. That would put them at December 5th, right before the bye week. So really, it's ideal. If Christian Barmore is not ready to go anytime within that 3-week period, he essentially gets an extra week with the bye week. So we hope to see him back sooner rather than later. Again, don't expect him to see him out. Don't expect to see Christian Barmore out there Sunday against the Rams, but anything's possible at this point. And adding Barmore to the mix is huge for a team that up until last week could not stop the run and could not pressure the quarterback. I mean, just look at his stats from last season alone. 8.5 sacks, 13 tackles for a loss, 16 QB hits, 6 pass breakups, 1 forced fumble in 64 tackles in 17 games with 6 starts in 2023. And he's had 12.5 sacks in his career, most of which came last season with that struggling Patriots team. He's 25 years old, on a contract extension. This season at least, will be about getting his feet wet again, but it's huge to have a player heading into the prime of his career like Christian Barmore on a long-term contract. You know, once you have Bentley back out there and healthy by next season, Duggar should potentially be back this week. Maybe add some pieces at linebacker, edge, add another defensive back next offseason. Add that to the growth of the coaching staff. Patriots could return to an elite NFL defense as soon as next season. And if they continue to build on what they did last week against the Chicago Bears, maybe it could happen even sooner. But for the Patriots to return to just generally an elite NFL team, it's going to take a lot more than adding Christian Barmore back to the roster. Reports this week said that ownership is asking around the league on how best to handle a young quarterback like Drake May. And it makes sense after the debacle that happened with Mac Jones. We were all very encouraged by Mac Jones, finished second in Rookie of the Year voting. Looked like we had the quarterback of the future. The Patriots did not provide the support they needed for Mac Jones. In fact, they took pieces away from him. He had different offensive coordinators each of his 3 seasons with the Patriots. It makes sense that Robert Kraft is going out there and asking around, but this has also raised some questions about whether that means Alex Van Pelt is on the hot seat as offensive coordinator. There's a reason why during the coach and player pressers this week, they've made sure to praise AVP and give him the majority of the credit for Drake May's growth and development. And I don't think they're wrong about that. You know, the players and the coaches, they have AVP's back right now. And I think the number one reason to keep Alex Van Pelt around is how he's handled Drake May. And yeah, I know there's people out there like Greg Bedard that say, you know, Drake May is not that different from the quarterback during the preseason. Would have rather had him sit a full year, work on his footwork, work on his mechanics. He's still very raw out there. There is some truth to that, but there is no denying the development of Drake May from the preseason to where he is right now. And yeah, he still has occasional bad habits, throwing interceptions underneath, bailing on the play a little too early, not sliding, which has been a big issue since his concussion. There's a lot of things that Drake May has to improve on, but just getting it in and out of the huddle, taking snaps under center, running the 2-minute offense, Drake May really couldn't do any of that stuff in the preseason, and he can do it just fine now. So I think Alex Van Pelt deserves a lot more credit than he's getting for the development of Drake May. But it sounds like ownership, as I was hoping they would, is taking a good hard look at the coaching staff to potentially set this team up for success starting next season. That's why I mentioned the possibility of bringing in Ben Johnson as a future head coach on the podcast last week. They could hire him as head coach, give him the play calling duties, and you could even keep Alex Van Pelt with the offensive coordinator title and just take away the play calling duties from him, and knowing that he has a positive impact on Drake May in the quarterback position. However, I don't think that's going to happen, nor do I think it probably should, in all honesty. The team is seemingly receptive to Jerod Mayo, his communication style. If last week is any indicator, they're taking the coaching pretty well from Jerod Mayo. The culture in the locker room has never really broken down this season, even if it seems shaky at times, and, the issues with the wide receiver room and some of the off-the-field stuff. But for the most part, that team is playing hard. They're taking the coaching, and they're doing the best they can to put the Patriots in a position to win week after week. And compare that to teams like the New York Jets or the Chicago Bears. They're way better than that. Who would you rather be right now? There's a handful of teams in the NFL I would not rather be than the New England Patriots at this point. They really are trending upward. And yeah, I think there perhaps may need to be some changes made to the coaching staff heading into next offseason, but let's see how the rest of the season plays out. I don't think Jerod Mayo's going anywhere, though. He's a young head coach, meaning he will learn quicker than everyone else, and it's important that he's able to build on his mistakes from year one and correct those mistakes heading into year two, and firing him prematurely makes no sense unless the culture of the team just begins to nosedive the rest of the season. But with the adversity that they've overcome already in the last couple of months, that's impressive with what Jerod Mayo has done. The team looked very buttoned up against the Chicago Bears. Yes, I know they were missing their 2 top tackles. They lost a guard mid-game. It was an easy win for the Patriots, at least on the defensive side of the football. The Bears do have a very good defense themselves, but the Patriots went to lunch against the Bears, and that was good coaching, and they were able to stop the run, and 9 QB sacks, something we haven't seen in New England for quite a few years. And you can't forget that Robert Kraft has essentially staked his reputation on Jerod Mayo. He decided he was going to be the head coach of the future back in 2019. He's not going to fire him prematurely, and if the team continues to improve the way they have, I'd argue the last 3 weeks, then yeah, of course you got to keep Jerod Mayo around, and maybe you even consider keeping Alex Van Pelt and DeMarcus Covington around as well. If the defense suddenly is able to hold teams under 100 rushing yards, we know the defensive backs do their job very well. I'm glad to see the Patriots running a lot more man instead of zone on defense, because they have the defensive backs to handle teams with real weapons like the Jets, like the Bears. They do a good job. Even little Marcus Jones out there going up against Rome Odunze and Keenan Allen and players like that. He's been an effective defensive player despite his size limitations. So, Patriots are trending up. They've won 2 out of 3. It could have been 3 in a row had things played out a little bit differently. They had gone for 2 against the Tennessee Titans. In fact, if they have won all their close games this season that they lost, the Seahawks, the Dolphins, the Titans, we're looking at a 6-4 football team right now. We're well into the playoff picture at that point. If the Patriots had just been able to win some of those close games, they'd be 6-4. Now, I know close only counts in hand grenades and horseshoes, and they had many close losses last year that could have flipped to wins had things played out differently. But If this team can make it to 6 wins, get 3 more before the end of the season, get to 2 more wins than last year, then you have to chalk this season up as a success, especially after overcoming the growing pains from Gerard Mayo, from DeMarcus Covington, even Alex Van Pelt, who's been an offensive coordinator before, but hasn't been the play caller for an NFL team. Those guys are overcoming their own growing pains, and if this team can get to 6 wins, 2 better than last year, build on, maybe they get a surprise victory against the Bills or the Cardinals late in the season, they're able to pick up some wins in the coming weeks, then yeah, things are looking pretty bright. And I do think Sunday's game against the Rams is a huge measuring stick, and I hope Robert Kraft, Elliott Wolf, and company see it as such. You can do this against a garbage fire coaching organization like the Jets and the Bears, but can you do it against Sean McVay and the Rams with their season on the line? I think the Patriots have 3 very winnable games coming up against the Rams. We know they're struggling this year. The Dolphins, even with Tua out there, they have a lot of issues. Tyreek Hill seems to be over the hill. Waddle has not been a great contributor. They were close to beating them last time, even with Huntley out there. And then the Indianapolis Colts, they've been struggling quite a bit. They have the potential here to win 4 games in a row. Not saying they're going to do it, but if they can, pick up 2 out of their next 3 before their bye week, before they head to Arizona for a tough matchup, that's a huge indicator, and I think everyone will save their jobs if that's the case. But you got to make it count. You got to see if the Patriots can do it all over again. Can they replicate what they did against a poorly coached Chicago Bears team last week against a very well-coached Los Angeles Rams team this week? Can you limit the mistakes? Can you limit the turnovers? Can you stop the run? Can you generate the run on the offensive side of the football? Those are things the Patriots have been struggling with all season long. They finally made up for it last week against the Bears. Can you do it against a football team that actually knows what they're doing? And Sean McVay is probably considered a top 3 coach in this league. I think it goes Andy Reid and then either Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay. Very, very similar head coaches there. McVay does have a Super Bowl. Shanahan doesn't. I think McVay is probably the second best coach in the NFL. So if they can pick up a win at home, they have a chance. The Rams are struggling. I know their season's on the line, but they're coming off of a short week after they played Monday Night Football. There's a real opportunity there. And then you have an opportunity against the Dolphins and the Colts. Who knows where the Arizona Cardinals are going to be? Who knows if the Bills are going to start to struggle? They're playing very well right now. You can probably chalk up those 2 remaining games as a loss, but who knows? It's a divisional game. They have a shot. So going to be interesting. Watch this week to see how the Patriots respond against a real well-coached team. Watch how they respond the next 3 weeks. I think that's going to determine whether or not Alex Van Pelt keeps his job, whether or not DeMarcus Covington keeps his job, and whether or not the Patriots are more confident in Gerard Mayo going forward. I don't think Mayo's going anywhere, but this team is on an upward trajectory. Could be getting Christian Barmore back soon. They have the quarterback. We're all very pleased with Drake May's performance. We need to see him improve a little bit, limit some of the mistakes, and then you're potentially off and running next season, and the pressure really then falls on Elliott Wolf to make the correct acquisitions, the correct draft picks, to build weapons, to build an offensive line around Drake May, and then just add a couple pieces of the defense. And then you suddenly have a talented roster that's capable of not just being a playoff team, but being one of the better teams in the AFC. And the AFC, we know you have the Chiefs, but the Ravens are always a little shaky. Look at the playoff picture right now. The Patriots are actually only 2 games out of the playoff picture at the moment. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but, this is a very mediocre AFC conference this year outside of maybe the Chiefs and the Ravens. Patriots can gain some ground, maybe look on the outside of the playoff picture by the end of the season, and look, none of us expected this to be a playoff team, so if they're even somewhat close to that, well, you have to be encouraged, and then you just give Elliott Wolf, with all that cap space, the ability to bring in some guys, recruit now that you have the quarterback. Like I said, Patriots are in a much better position than maybe even half of the teams in the NFL who are dealing with salary cap issues or dealing with, cultural mutiny and things of that nature. They're in a good spot right now. Don't screw it up. But we'll see what happens. I'm curious to hear from you. What do you think their final record will be? I actually think they're going to finish with 6 wins. I think they're going to be 6-11 when all is said and done. I think they're going to pick up 2 out of the next 3 and then steal one from either the Bills or the Cardinals by the end of the season. Let me know if you disagree. Do you think they're going to be better than that? Do you think they have a shot at the playoffs? Or do you think this is another, 4-13 season? Curious to hear from you in the comments. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, or subscribe if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. May not be back until next Sunday, still recovering from this illness, but maybe back if there's some breaking news. If not, we'll see you Sunday after the game against the Rams.
In the shadows he was waiting, blood clots held the spirit down. Barmore rising like the dawn, warrior ready to claim his crown. Patriots stand tall and strong, with Barmore back where he belongs. Silent whispers full of mind, in the trenches now to fight. Cats calling through the night, Barmore's here, set it right. Blood and sweat to pave the way, Patriots gear up for the fray. Players taking all the coaching, listening to every word now. On the field, the force in motion, Barmore's back, they take a bow. Patriots taking all the coaching, listening to every word now. On the field, the force in motion, Barmore's back, they take a bow. Clots they tried but could not hold him, strength inside too tough to break. Every game a brand new column, marking wins for Barmore's sake. From the depths he's rising high, every challenge faced with pride. On the gridiron warriors cry, Barmore leads and not from behind. There's gas calling through the night, Barmore's here to set it right. Blood and sweat to pave the way,